How do you know what works and what doesn't when trying new marketing playbooks, generating revenue, and growing a company? The answer isn't just luck, it's experiments. I worked my ass off trying to make things work from the amount of tests I ran. Even if only 20% of what I have done works, it still brings me closer to achieving the growth goals. You see, you must be willing to fail to get good at marketing. Failures are necessary, and it's thanks to them you can learn what really works. Experimentation is just trying things out, learning from failures, and finding successful strategies. But doing it effectively, it isn't a walk in the park. At the start, I didn't know how on earth to do it. Now, I can share a framework for the how. I use it for many experiments, which you can use like a mad scientist.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Ready to crack the code? Let's jump in. Let's start with number 1, hypotheses. Every experiment starts with a problem to solve. To do this, you need to describe why you think the experiment is worth giving a shot. This is the problem identified. How you're going to solve it. This is the solution. And how it's going to impact the growth. This is the outcome expected. Number 2 is the description. This is where you describe what you want to test. For example, a new channel, an ad campaign, a funnel step, a landing page, a price, and so on and so forth. What is the change? So for example, a new kind of messaging, a higher price, like a new CTA, or some new kind of wording. Again, these are just examples. Number 3 is the success metric. Defining a single metric of success is key to measuring the success or failure of an experiment. Having a single, clearly identified metric is the way to go. This metric of success can be either A, volume, for example, the number of signups coming from a channel, or B, a conversion rate, for example, a free to paid trial conversion rate, or C, an amount in dollars or whatever currency you have, for example, average revenue per user, average revenue per customer, and so on and so forth. Number 4, what counts as a success and fixing mistakes. So what counts as success is also known as the success threshold. This is the smallest improvement you need to see in your results to call the experiment a win. It helps you decide if the changes you actually made a difference worth sticking with. And with that comes fixing mistakes. Sometimes tweaking one thing might help, but it could also mess something else up. That's why it's important to have a plan for when things go wrong, so you can learn from it and keep things moving. 5 is estimated time. This gives a clear overview of the efforts and the time needed to fully build and run the experiment. Estimated time includes A, the time to build the experiment, B, the duration of the experiment, and C, the period of the analysis. This leads to number 6, potential problems. Are there any obstacles in the way of running the experiment smoothly? These can be technical issues, not having enough resources like time or money, or anything else that might get in the way of the experiment. 7 is what you need. These are things you need to have to create and carry out your experiments. 8 is estimated cost. How much does your experiment cost? We only indicate the direct budget here, the marketing budget, and not the initial cost. So for example, the salary of the team working on the experiment. Then it's 9, learnings. Whether the experiment is a success or a failure, documenting and sharing the learnings is key to the progress. That's what will make the team and the company progress in the long run, by gathering knowledge on what's working and what's not. In the learning section, we want to know the following. What did we learn thanks to this experiment? Was it a success or failure, and why? Is there anything we've discovered that was not expected? What could we do better to increase the impact of the tests? Number 10, next steps. Depending on the experiment results and learnings, there are different possible next steps. So if the experiment is a failure, kill it or try it differently. If there is no significant results, kill it or continue it to gather more learnings or change the test methodology. If the experiment is a success, scale it or try improve it to see if you can reach a higher impact as possible. Okay, so now I've covered the framework. I'm going to share how I organize my marketing experiments. I will cover 1, why you should have a backlog, 2, how to install a backlog, and 3, how to organize and track experiments. So let's start with number 1, why you should have a backlog. I've been doing marketing experiments for the past 8 years. I've always kept track of the experiments so I can create that second brain. It helps me learn from trial and errors, find winning tactics, identify patterns, and get new ideas. The ROI of a backlog is insane. Now that you know why you need to install a backlog, here's what you should do. Here is what a backlog looks like. My backlogs are composed of 6 columns. 1, the experiment title, 1 short sentence to know what the experiment is about in 1 second. 2, description, so bullet points to describe what's going to happen or what happened. 3 is objectives. This is what I aim to achieve with this experiment. 4 is plan, so a link to another document that explains the plan in details or an in-depth roadmap of what's going to happen. 5 is the ICE score. So this is a methodology to rank and prioritize your experiments that you have in mind. 6 is results. At the end of the experiment, you should report the results in this column to later come back to it. To create a backlog like this, you can use tools like Google Sheets or Excel, Trello, Notion, and so on and so forth. An important thing here is to turn this backlog into your own library and database of experiments. After those 2 points, let's go to number 3, how to use a backlog. Once your backlog template is sorted, you can start organizing your experiments. List all your experiments with the details in the column. 2, attribute an ICE score to each experiment. ICE score stands for impact, confidence, ease. Then you want to prioritize the experiments based on the highest scores. So select the experiments with the highest scores and plan them with a weekly sprint. The weekly sprints looks like this. Start on day 1, analyze on day 7, iterate on day 8. The most important part is to write the results once the experiment is done. So as a next step, I invite you to create your own backlog with 1 tool, then plan an experiment, execute it, and report on the results. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you on the next